Hey guys, tonight we drift into the impossibly gilded, eternally sunny, and frankly exhaustingly perfect realm of Mount Olympus. You're standing on a cloud-polished marble floor that glows faintly like captured moonlight. The air hums with the scent of ambrosia somewhere between honeycomb and existential satisfaction, and distant, perfectly tuned harp music plinks away the divine equivalent of elevator music. It's beautiful. It's serene. It's so mind-numbingly predictable that even the fates are considering knitting something daring like socks with mismatched toes. Let's be real. You a mere mortal bathed in this divine radiance for more than 5 minutes. Your synapses would fizzle out like wet firecrackers. You probably wouldn't survive the sheer, unadulterated perfection . So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Wherever you're listening from, maybe Tokyo just waking up or Chicago winding down, drop a comment with your location and local time. It's weirdly soothing to remember we're all adrift on the same spinning rock. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You breathe in Olympus. It's stifling. Imagine the world's most luxurious waiting room where nobody ever gets called. Over by the nectar fountain, Zeus idly juggles miniature thunderbolts, sighing dramatically each time Hera rearranges the celestial constellations, like moody interior decor. Ares belongs over the eastern portico darling. It clashes dreadfully with the cerulean drapes. She murmurs, snapping her fingers. The stars obediently shuffle. Hermes zooms past on winged sandals, delivering a scroll. To himself, for fun. Even Ares, polishing a shield so shiny it could blind a Cyclops, looks bored. This is the pinnacle of existence, endless power, endless beauty, endless nothing new under the sun which Helios drives past on schedule every single day. Historians still argue whether the Greek gods truly felt human-like ennui, or if their boredom was just a poetic device cooked up by playwrights needing relatable divine drama. Either way, the vibe here thicker than Poseidon's beard. You feel the weight of eternity pressing down a velvet tedium. And then there's Athena. Tonight she's not pacing the war room strategizing over Troy or Corinth. She's not debating philosophy with owls, she's staring at a wall. A magnificent gold-leafed frescoed wall depicting her glorious victory over some scaly titan. But still, a wall. Her gray eyes, usually sharp enough to dissect a battlefield formation, at 50 leagues are glazed over. Wisdom incarnate. Currently contemplating the profound pointlessness of being all-knowing when there's nothing new to know. She traces the cool marble with a fingertip. Even inventing the olive tree feels like a distant, mildly interesting Tuesday from several millennia ago. A quirky tidbit. Ancient sources whisper that ambrosia, while granting immortality, tasted suspiciously like lukewarm oatmeal to anyone not a god. Maybe eternal life needs a better snack menu. Athena sighs a sound like wind rustling through dry parchment. She needs an outlet, something messy, something unpredictable, something utterly an Olympian. The perfect gears of her divine mind are grinding against the friction of absolute, unchanging serenity. You can almost hear the squeak. A mainstream historical fact nudges in here. The Greeks saw their gods as deeply anthropomorphic, flawed, and driven by very human emotions, including boredom. It made them relatable, explainable. Tonight on Cloud 9, literally relatable means terminally divinely bored . The harp plinks on. Zeus drops a thunderbolt. It clatters uselessly on the marble. Nobody flinches. Athena pushes off the wall. Time to walk. Maybe down by Lake Tritonis, where the air isn't quite so aggressively perfect. Anything to escape the golden cage. You follow Athena's restless stride away from the suffocating splendor of the Olympian halls, her sandals clicking a sharp, impatient rhythm on the too-perfect marble. She doesn't head for the armory, that temple of gleaming bronze and meticulous war plans. Nor does she drift towards the libraries, those echoing chambers where scrolls whisper answers to questions nobody's asked in centuries. No. She veers towards the western colonnade, a long shaded walkway open to the lesser-tended edges of the divine realm. Here, the air carries a faint earthy tang, a whisper of mortal dust carried up on a thermal perhaps, or maybe just the scent of clouds that haven't been properly fluffed by minor sky nymphs lately. It's a relief, honestly. Less asterisk glow, asterisk more asterisk, grit asterisk. You feel the slight crunch of something vaguely resembling real grit under your own imagined feet. Athena pauses by a towering column, gripping the cool stone as if it might anchor her swirling thoughts. Her knuckles are pale. Her brow, usually smooth as carved ivory beneath her helm, is furrowed. Wisdom, it turns out, can feel like a cage when there's nothing new to solve, no knot, to unpick, no fresh strategy to devise. Historians still argue whether the Greek concept of ponos, that soul-deep weariness, that labor of the spirit, truly applied to the immortal gods, or if it was strictly reserved for us mere mortals, slogging through our short, messy lives. Watching Athena now, you'd bet your last drachma it applied. She's the goddess of wisdom, yes, but right now, she's also the goddess of having her divine feathers thoroughly ruffled by sheer, unadulterated stagnation. She pushes off the column, resuming her pacing, back and forth, past meticulously pruned celestial laurels that never shed a leaf, past a fountain where water nymphs perform synchronized swimming routines, so precise they'd make an Olympic judge weep with boredom. Her gray eyes scan the horizon, not with strategic calculation, but with a desperate, hungry search. For what chaos? A minor border skirmish down in Thessaly. A particularly tricky philosophical paradox invented by some clever mortal. Anything to engage the relentless engine of her mind. A quirky tidbit floats to the surface. Ancient Athenian farmers apparently believed owls. Athena's sacred bird nesting near your fields meant bad luck for the harvest, which feels deeply ironic given she's the patron of the city. Maybe they just hated the nocturnal hooting. Right now, Athena might sympathize with being seen as an omen of gloom. Her companion owl, usually perched serenely on her shoulder, flutters nervously beside her, sensing the storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. It lets out a soft, questioning, "Who asterisk?" Athena doesn't even glance at it. She's trapped in the gilded monotony, her brilliant intellect sparking against the vacuum like flint on wet stone. A mainstream historical fact nudges in this intense personification of divine emotions was central to Greek religion. It made the unpredictable forces of the world feel comprehensible, even manageable. Tonight, the force feeling decidedly unmanageable is divine boredom. It's a thick fog smothering the sharp edges of her thoughts. You feel the frustration radiating off her like heat shimmer off desert sand. It's not the hot, explosive rage of Ares, it's colder, deeper, more corrosive. The frustration of infinite potential with zero outlet. She stops pacing again, staring down at her own hands. Hands that weave tapestries depicting cosmic battles. Hands that crafted the first olive tree hands that could probably design a better celestial plumbing system if she could just focus asterisk on something besides the echoing silence of eternity. She flexes her fingers. They itch. Not for the familiar weight of a spear or shield, but for creation. Raw, messy asterisk, unpredictable asterisk creation. Something utterly divorced from strategy, from statecraft, from the well-ordered perfection she usually embodies. Something that asterisk isn't asterisk eternal. Something new. The idea itself feels almost blasphemous in this realm of static glory. The harp music drifts faintly from the main hall, a saccharine melody that suddenly grates on the nerves like fingernails on polished marble. She grimaces. Even the owl shuffles its feet on the column ledge, looking distinctly unimpressed. The pressure builds, a divine mind too powerful for its environment, a pot about to boil over with nothing but itself inside. The need for an outlet isn't just intellectual anymore. It's becoming visceral, a physical hum beneath her skin. You sense it too, that restless energy searching for a crack in the perfect facade, a single loose thread in the tapestry of eternity to pull, and unravel something new. The path down towards the less manicured shores of Lake Tritonis seems to beckon promising air that hasn't been filtered through 10 layers of divine approval. Anything to escape the silent scream building inside the goddess of wisdom. The owl blinks wisely, deciding now is not the time for another asterisk, who asterisk. The path down from Olympus isn't paved with gold, thankfully. It's rougher earth scattered with pebbles that actually asterisk crunch asterisk underfoot, and wild, untamed tufts of grass that tickle your ankles. A small rebellion against the manicured perfection above. The air shifts too. growing cooler damper, carrying the distinct mineral scent of deep water and wet reeds. Lake Tritonis stretches before you, a vast, dark mirror reflecting the bruised purples and blues of the twilight sky, untouched by Helios's departing blaze. It's quieter here, a profound silence broken only by the rhythmic lap of water against the shore and the occasional distant croak of a frog. After the oppressive hum of Olympus, it feels like slipping into a cool bath for the soul. Athena slows her pace, breathing deeper. The frantic energy buzzing beneath her skin seems to settle, absorbed by the tranquil gloom. You feel it too, that loosening of tension in your own shoulders. This is more like it. Imperfect. Uncontrolled. Asterisk. Real asterisk. Her owl glides silently overhead, a ghostly shape against the darkening sky, finally seeming content. She walks closer to the water's edge, the damp earth yielding slightly under her sandals. A mainstream historical fact nudges in lakes like Tritonis were often seen as liminal spaces in Greek myth thresholds, between the divine and the monstrous, places where unexpected things could bubble up from the depths. And Tritonis specifically, it had a reputation. A quirky tidbit: ancient Greek travelers sometimes believed large, isolated lakes like this were literally the tears of titans wept eons ago and forgotten. Tonight it just feels still. You stand beside Athena, looking out across the inky water. The silence isn't empty, though. It's thick, expectant. Like the pause between thunderclaps. The cool air raises goosebumps on your mortal skin, a primal response to the ancient wildness of the place. Athena seems untroubled by the chill, her gaze fixed on the far shore where shadows gather thickly beneath gnarled trees. She's seeking solace, perhaps, or just the absence of divine scrutiny. But the quiet is deceptive. Suddenly shattering the stillness like glass, a sound pierces the air. It's high, sharp, and utterly inhuman, a keening wail that seems to twist the very air molecules around you. It echoes across the water, bouncing off unseen rocks, multiplying into a chorus of chilling dissonance. It's not the cry of any bird beast or nymph, you know. It's raw, agonized, vibrating with a terror that scrapes against your spine. You flinch, instinctively stepping back. Athena doesn't move a muscle, but you see it, a flicker in her gray eyes, a subtle tightening along her jawline. Recognition. Cold, unwelcome recognition. That sound, it worms its way past the tranquility, digging its claws into a memory she'd likely rather leave buried deep in the Olympian archives. Historians still argue whether the terrifying cries attributed to Gorgons were inspired by real animals like the unsettling scream of a peacock, or were purely monstrous inventions designed to evoke primal fear. Standing here, hearing it ripple across the dark water, the debate feels academic. It's pure nightmare fuel. The cry fades, leaving behind a ringing silence that feels even heavier than before. But the damage is done. Athena's posture has changed. The momentary peace is gone, replaced by a rigid stillness. Her gaze is no longer on the lake, but turned inward, pulled back years, decades, centuries, to a moment drenched in blood and horror. You're dragged back with her. The image flashes the young demigod Perseus, trembling but triumphant, landing awkwardly on the sun-drenched marble of Olympus. His face is pale, streaked with sweat and grime. In his outstretched hands, held away from his body like something radioactive, is a burlap sack. It drips. Thick, dark drops stain the impossibly perfect floor. The scent of ambrosia is momentarily overpowered by something metallic, coppery. Athena remembers stepping forward, her expression unreadable, duty warring with revulsion. Perseus, breathing hard, his eyes wide with residual terror and exhilaration, thrusts the sack towards her. Asterisk. My lady Athena. The head of Medusa. Asterisk. His voice cracks. The sack shifts. Something heavy and wet settles inside. You remember the collective intake of breath from the assembled gods, the way Aphrodite turned her face away, the way Zeus leaned forward, intrigued. But Athena... Athena remembers the asterisk weight asterisk as she took the sack. The unnatural chill radiating from the fabric. The faint, almost imperceptible asterisk snick asterisk sound as the severed neck tendons settled. And the eyes. Even through the sack, she asterisk felt asterisk them. Not dead, not truly. Petrifying malice radiating from within. She'd accepted it, this monstrous trophy, her face a mask of divine composure. A necessary part of the hero's tale, a symbol of divine favor. But the memory... It's not polished marble, it's raw meat and terror momentarily resurrected by that unearthly wail over Lake Tretinus. Her knuckles are white again. The owl lands silently on a nearby rock, its huge eyes reflecting the water's dim light watching her. The lake's peace is utterly shattered, replaced by the lingering echo of monstrous death and a goddess confronting a past she can't unsee. The cool air suddenly feels clammy, clinging. That chilling echo fades, leaving only the lake's soft lapping and the frantic thrum of your own pulse in your ears. The air still tastes of damp stone and ancient fear. Athena stands frozen for a long moment, staring not at the water but at the dark, pebbled shore beneath her feet. The memory of Medusa's severed head, heavy and leaking in that rough sack, clings like cold mist. You watch her shoulders tense, a barely perceptible tremor running through her before she forcibly exhales a sharp gust, dispelling some of the spectral dread. She shakes her head, a quick dismissive jerk like a bird shedding water. Asterisk, enough. Asterisk. The past is petrified, literally. Tonight demands something else. Anything else. She resumes walking, her steps quicker now, almost defiant, crunching the loose shale as she moves further along the shoreline, away from the sound's origin point. The owl glides silently above a sentinel against the deepening twilight. Historians still argue whether figures like Medusa were truly monstrous or tragic victims of divine pettiness. A debate that rages in dusty academic journals while the myth itself remains terrifyingly potent. Athena, you suspect, isn't pondering nuance right now. She's walking it off. The moon, Selene's chariot, just clearing the distant hills, casts long, distorted shadows and paints the reeds in silvery monochrome. It's in this patchy light that Athena stops abruptly. Something gleams dully off-white against the dark earth, half buried near a gnarled root where the water's edge meets scraggly grass. Not a stone, too smooth, too structured. She crouches, her gray chiton pooling around her sandals, curiosity momentarily overriding the lingering unease. You lean closer too. It's a bone. A long, slender leg bone picked clean by time scavengers or the lake's quiet chemistry. Sun-bleached and rain-polished, it lies like a discarded ivory flute, forgotten by some careless giant. A quirky tidbit nudges in ancient Greeks often used animal bones for tools and ornaments. But flutes made from asterisk deer? Asterisk leg bones have actually been found in archaeological digs. Proof that reality sometimes follows myth, or maybe the other way around. Athena picks it up. It's cool, surprisingly light. She runs a thumb along its smooth length, feeling the subtle curve of the hollow core within. It's inert. Silent. Just bone. But then her gaze sweeps the immediate area. The moonlight reveals more fragments scattered nearby, smaller knuckle bones. A piece of weathered rib, the delicate arch of a pelvis half sunk in mud. A deer, likely? Fallen here seasons ago. Nature's quiet recycling project. Nothing divine, nothing monstrous. Just mortal end. Yet as Athena's fingers trace the smooth cavity of the long bone, an idea begins to flicker, tentative at first, like the first spark struck from flint. It's not a pleasant thought, not really. It carries the faint metallic aftertaste of the Gorgon's cry and the visceral memory of the sack dripping onto Olympus's perfect floor. Death, transformation. The potential locked within something discarded, something broken. Her inventor's mind, starved for novelty, latches onto the asterisk shape asterisk. The asterisk hollowness. Asterisk. What if this emptiness could be filled with something else? Not life, but asterisk sound asterisk. A sound utterly unlike the Gorgon's shriek or the Olympian harp's tedious perfection. A mainstream historical fact surfaces. Wind instruments were among humanity's oldest, often born from observing nature. The wind whistling through reeds, the hollow call of shells. Was the divine impulse so different? Athena turns the bone over in her hand, studying it. Her expression is unreadable. Part revulsion at its origin, part intense, focused fascination. The owl lands on a nearby rock, tilting its head, watching this strange communion with the mortal remains. The disturbing notion takes root, fueled by divine boredom and a sudden, almost morbid curiosity. Could silence trapped within death be coaxed into song, or at least into asterisk? Something asterisk new. The lake breathes softly. The bone feels cold, waiting. She gathers more fragments, not with reverence, but with the practical focus of a craftsman assessing materials. A few smaller bones reasonably intact. Her mind, usually mapping battlefields or civic constitutions, now dissects angles. Hollow's potential points of connection. Could they be joined? Could air be forced through? What kind of voice would emerge from these sun-bleached remnants? It's a grotesque puzzle born from a moment of horror and the oppressive weight of eternity. Yet the sheer asterisk wrongness asterisk of it, the messy, un-Olympian tangibility feels invigorating, like plunging her hands into cold mud after centuries of handling only polished marble. She pockets the bones, their slight weight unfamiliar, against her thigh. The owl gives a soft, questioning, "Who asterisk?" Athena doesn't answer. She straightens, looking back towards the towering, faintly glowing silhouette of Olympus in the distance. A small, grim smile touches her lips. Perfection hadn't offered an outlet. Horror followed by scavenging on a lonely shore just might have. The walk back feels different, lighter somehow despite the macabre cargo. The problem of eternity hasn't been solved, but a new, utterly bizarre project has been found. The question hangs in the cool night air, following her like the owl's silent shadow. What sound does a goddess pull from death's discarded instruments? The journey back to her workshop begins not with weary resignation, but with unsettling, focused anticipation. The bones clink softly together with each step. Athena's workshop isn't what you'd expect. Forget gleaming celestial forges or libraries whispering with cosmic secrets. This is a tucked-away alcove behind the temple of Hephaestus's main smithy, all practical chaos. Stone shelves sag under half-finished prototypes. A self-navigating plow, a compass that points towards existential dread, still needs tweaking clay tablets etched with equations for better olive oil viscosity. The air smells of hot metal cedar shavings and the faint acrid tang of divine frustration. No harp music here, just the rhythmic asterisk, clang asterisk from Hephaestus's main floor and the skittering of industrious bronze automaton spiders tidying up metal filings. Athena kicks aside a tangled skein of celestial-grade twine and clears a space on a sturdy oak workbench scarred with chisel marks and old wine stains. She empties her pockets. The deer bones clatter onto the wood, stark, pale, unsettlingly mortal against the divine detritus. A mainstream historical fact nudges in ancient Greek workshops, even divine ones, were often multifunctional hubs blending artistry engineering and pure, messy experimentation, more garage inventor than sterile lab. This space reeks of it. Her owl perches on a bust of Socrates, missing its nose, observing with unnerving stillness. You lean against a shelf stacked with scrolls titled things like Optimal Spear Trajectory, Vol 7. Asterisk Athena picks up the long leg bone first. Her fingers, usually precise as a geometer's compass, probe its hollow core. She selects a smaller curved rib fragment. No divine magic yet, just ruthless practicality. She grabs a bronze awl from a jar, its tip still warm from some forgotten task. Positioning the rib against the femur's side, she begins to bore. The sound is gritty, visceral asterisk, scritch, scratch, scritch, asterisk, bone dust puffing into the lamplight like ghostly pollen. Historians still argue whether early wind instruments were born from deliberate invention or happy accidents involving bored shepherds and hollow reeds. Watching Athena, it feels like a grimly focused accident. She doesn't speak. Her brow furrows in concentration, lips pressed thin. She's not crafting art, she's performing exploratory surgery on silence itself. Once a rough hole connects the two cavities, she lashes the bones together with that celestial twine-tight, efficient knots worthy of a warship's rigging. It's crude. Frankensteinian, really. A jagged tube of death held together by divine impatience. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some fringe scholars theorize the first flutes weren't instruments at all, but ritualistic wind whistles, meant to scare off vengeful spirits by mimicking their shrieks. Given Athena's recent encounter at the lake, that feels uncomfortably plausible. Now the moment. She lifts the contraption. It looks like something a particularly morbid child might assemble after a bad dream. She examines the jagged mouthpiece she's carved at one end, then the uneven holes along its length. Doubt flickers in her gray eyes, quickly smothered by stubborn curiosity. She takes a deep breath, the kind you take before jumping into icy water, and brings the bone assemblage to her lips. You brace yourself, she blows. The sound that erupts isn't music, it's not even asterisk. Sound asterisk, in the civilized sense. It's a raw grating asterisk. Gree asterisk. Like metal claws dragged across slate amplified by a thunderclap. It vibrates the workbench. It rattles the scrolls on the shelves. It sends the bronze spider automaton skittering behind a barrel in panic. You physically recoil, hands flying to your ears. It's the sonic equivalent of chewing foil with a migraine. It scrapes down your spine, sets your teeth on edge, and carries with it the faint ghostly echo of the Gorgon's wail and the dry rattle of forgotten bones. Athena flinches, pulling the instrument away from her mouth as if bitten. The awful shriek cuts off abruptly, leaving a ringing silence that feels like mercy. Her owl lets out a disgruntled "who asterisk" and fluffs its feathers indignantly. Even Hephaestus's distant asterisk, clanging asterisk, pauses for a beat. The mainstream historical fact surfaces. Early Aulos flutes' double-piped reeds were notoriously difficult to master and produced shrill, penetrating sounds often described as ecstatic or maddening. Clearly an understatement. This is just maddening. But Athena stares at the bone flute, not with disgust, but with intense analytical fascination. That horrible sound. It was asterisk, loud asterisk. It was asterisk, present asterisk. It cut through the divine ennui like a rusty saw through silk. She tentatively pokes a finger into one of the holes, then blows again, softer this time. The result is only marginally better. A wet, gurgling asterisk. Woonk asterisk, followed by a pathetic squeak like a stepped-on mouse. She adjusts her lips, tries covering different holes. The sounds that follow are a cacophony of failure, sputtering rasps, reedy whistles that break into coughs, sudden shrieks that make the owl glare. It's the auditory equivalent of a newborn giraffe trying to walk. Yet she persists. Blow, squeal, adjust, blow, honk, adjust. Her initial revulsion is gone, replaced by the relentless focus of a tactician dissecting an unfamiliar siege engine. Each awful noise is data, a puzzle, the potential for control. You notice it too beneath the assault on your eardrums, the tiniest hint of pitch variation when she covers a lower hole. A faint, unstable resonance in the bone itself. It's buried under layers of sonic atrocity, but it's there, like finding a single coherent sentence in a scroll written by a drunk philosopher. The bone flute isn't singing, it's screaming itself hoarse. But Athena listens, really listens, not for beauty, but for possibility hidden within the din. The workshop air thrums with discordant potential, and the goddess of wisdom for the first time in centuries is utterly messily absorbed. The owl sighs, tucking its head under a wing. This might take a while. The workshop air still hums with the phantom vibrations of that first god-awful screech. Bone dust hangs suspended in the lamplight like malevolent glitter. You rub your ears, half expecting to find blood. Athena, however, seems electrified. That raw grating asterisk, scree asterisk, wasn't music, it was a lightning strike in the stagnant swamp of eternity. It was asterisk, change asterisk. And change, however cacophonous, is the antidote to divine boredom. She picks up the jagged bone assemblage, her gray eyes narrowed not in disgust, but in fierce appraisal. The owl peeks out from under its wing, radiating profound skepticism. Asterisk. Are we done with the sonic assault? Asterisk, its glare seems to ask. Athena ignores it. She's found her messy, unpredictable outlet. You watch her become a woman possessed, not by war strategy, but by acoustics. The next hours, days, time blurs when a goddess gets fixated, are a symphony of scraping, drilling, and increasingly asterisk, varied asterisk shrieks. She attacks the bones with the meticulous ruthlessness of a battlefield surgeon. That bronze awl becomes her scalpel. Asterisk. Scritch, scratch, scratch. Asterisk. She smooths the jagged mouthpiece where her lips meet bone, paring away rough edges until it's almost asterisk comfortable. Historians still argue whether early flutes were primarily ritual objects or tools for pure entertainment. But Athena's motivation is clear. Defeating silence one grating note at a time. Bone dust powders her chitin, clings to her dark braids, giving her the look of a sculptor who's lost an argument with her marble. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Archaeologists found a 40000-year-old vulture bone flute in Germany, proving humanity's obsession with making screechy noises from dead things is truly ancient. Athena would feel vindicated. She drills more holes, experimentally, one near the top, two lower down. Her fingers used to tracing battle maps now dance over these morbid apertures, testing coverage pressure. She blows. Asterisk fui eep. Asterisk. She shifts a finger. Asterisk blot. Asterisk. She tries a softer breath covering two holes. Asterisk woo. Asterisk. The sound wavers unstable but holds a single fragile pitch for a breathtaking half-second before collapsing into a wet gurgle. It's progress. Painful, ear-splitting progress. The bronze spider automaton hasn't emerged from behind its barrel. Hephaestus's distant hammering sounds distinctly annoyed now, heavy thuds punctuating her sonic experiments like disapproving punctuation. You learn a mainstream historical fact. The ancient Greek asterisk, aulos asterisk, required incredible breath control and finger dexterity, often leaving players red-faced and lightheaded. A fate even goddesses aren't immune to. Athena pauses, cheeks flushed, taking deep, steadying breaths. Her brow glistens. This is harder than routing an army of giants. She's relentless. She sands the bone interiors with reeds dipped in abrasive divine sand, courtesy of Hephaestus probably left over from polishing Ares' ego. She adjusts the tension of the twine bindings. She carves tiny notches near the holes to guide her fingertips. Each modification is a tiny battle against entropy and anatomical unsuitability. Blow asterisk hoonk. Asterisk adjust. Blow asterisk twee. Asterisk adjust. Blow asterisk whip. Asterisk. It's a vocabulary of failure slowly gaining coherence. The sounds are still fundamentally asterisk unpleasant asterisk, like a chorus of angry geese trapped in a drainpipe. But the randomness is fading. Patterns emerge. Cover asterisk this asterisk hole with asterisk. The asterisk finger blow asterisk this asterisk hard. Get asterisk this asterisk specific honk. It's less music, more sonic algebra. You notice the shift before she does. It happens during a softer attempt. She covers the two lower holes, blows gently across the mouthpiece instead of straight into it. The air whispers through the hollow core, flutters against the bone edges, and produces a sound that isn't a shriek, honk, or gurgle. It's a low, reedy asterisk, wish, asterisk, like wind sighing through autumn reeds. Quiet, almost melancholic. Athena freezes. The owl lifts its head, intrigued despite itself. Even the distant hammering pauses. The workshop holds its breath. She tries again, replicating the lip position, the breath pressure. Asterisk, wish, asterisk. It holds. It's stable. It's almost peaceful. A stark, shocking contrast to the Gorgon's cry that started this whole morbid journey. A slow, incredulous smile spreads across Athena's dust-streaked face. It's not triumph, not yet. It's the dawning realization of control. She's not just wrestling noise, she's asterisk shaping asterisk it. The potential hidden within Death's discarded instrument is responding. Tentatively, she lifts a finger from one lower hole while maintaining the breath. The asterisk wish asterisk shifts, rising slightly in pitch to a clearer plaintive asterisk. Wee asterisk. It's thin, it's reedy, but it's undeniably a asterisk note asterisk, an intentional sound pulled from silence and bone. She holds it, her eyes wide with discovery. The owl gives a soft approving whoo asterisk, the first positive feedback she's gotten. She experiments, moving her fingers over the holes like a musician finding scales for the first time. Asterisk wee. Woo. Way. It's a simple, haunting, pentatonic lullaby for the damned. No more shrieks, no more honks, just these eerie, breathy tones weaving through the workshop like spectral snakes. The bone flute isn't screaming anymore. It's whispering secrets only Athena can hear. She closes her eyes, lost in the strange, mournful beauty she's wrestled from the jaws of cacophony. The goddess of wisdom has become an apprentice to a dead deer's femur. Olympus would be scandalized. She blows again, coaxing out a longer, trembling note. Asterisk, woo, asterisk. The sound hangs in the dusty air, fragile and utterly new. The owl bobs its head. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a terrible idea. The haunting whispers of the bone flute still hang in the dusty air of the workshop, fragile and new. Athena lowers the instrument, her fingers resting lightly on the smoothed bone holes. A profound, unfamiliar satisfaction warms her, cutting through the bone dust and divine frustration. She's done it. Wrestled chaos into something approaching order. Pulled music, strange, reedy, melancholic music, from the jaws of death and dissonance. The owl hoots softly, a sound that almost resembles approval. You feel it too, that quiet buzz of creation humming beneath your skin. It's heady stuff, this mastery over the impossible. A quirky tidbit floats in ancient Greek artisans sometimes believed their first successful creation possessed a kind of asterisk, daemon asterisk, a guiding spirit. Athena probably wouldn't call the flute's mournful whisper a spirit, but the pride that's palpable. She runs a thumb along the flute's length, tracing the joins, the holes. It's still ugly, still undeniably made of dead things, but it's asterisk hers asterisk, and it asterisk works asterisk. This pride, warm and bright, does something dangerous. It clouds the goddess of wisdom's usually impeccable judgment. The solitude of the workshop suddenly feels insufficient. The owl's muted appreciation isn't enough. After centuries of Olympian indifference, she craves asterisk acknowledgement, asterisk recognition for this messy, unorthodox triumph. Who better to appreciate novelty than, well, perhaps not Hephaestus busy or Zeus distracted, but Hera queenly, observant Hera, or Aphrodite, the embodiment of aesthetic appreciation, even if her tastes run towards sparkles and size. Yes, they'd understand. They'd asterisk see asterisk. The idea crystallizes, gleaming with the dangerous allure of validation. She needs an audience, now. You follow her out of the workshop, the bone flute clutched like a sacred relic or a particularly potent weapon. The transition back into the main Olympian halls is jarring. After the gritty reality of the workshop and the lake's wild edge, the golden glow feels artificial, the harp music tinny and insipid. Athena barely notices. Her stride is purposeful, confident. She bypasses the grand audience chamber, too formal, and heads towards a smaller, sun-drenched terrace overlooking the cloud gardens. It's Hera's preferred afternoon retreat. Sure enough, the Queen of the Gods is there, reclining on a chaise woven from moonbeams and peacock feathers, sipping nectar from a goblet that refracts rainbows. Beside her, Aphrodite lounges idly, braiding strands of golden light into her hair, a contented smile playing on her lips, as a trio of cherubs float nearby, dropping rose petals that vanish before they hit the floor. It's a tableau of effortless, breathtaking perfection. A mainstream historical fact nudges in Greek goddesses, especially Hera and Aphrodite, were often depicted in art and myth as intensely aware of their status and image, presiding over domains that demanded constant aesthetic vigilance. Athena, bone dust still faintly smudging her temple, clutching her jagged instrument strides into the scene like a muddy hound crashing a porcelain tea party. Lady Hera, Lady Aphrodite. Athena announces, her voice perhaps a shade too loud, vibrating with suppressed excitement. I have created something. She holds up the bone flute. It looks even more incongruous here. Stark pale primitive against the shimmering opulence. Hera lowers her goblet, her regal eyebrows arching ever so slightly. Aphrodite pauses mid-braid, her perfect brow furrowing with polite confusion. The cherubs stop, dropping petals, hovering silently. A hunting whistle, dear. Hera asks, her tone smooth as polished marble laced with a hint of amused condescension. For the woodland nymphs, perhaps, though they usually manage with bird calls. Aphrodite stifles a giggle behind a perfectly manicured hand. The air prickles with unspoken judgment. Athena's jaw tightens, but the warm glow of creation still burns bright, overriding the first flicker of unease. Not a whistle, she corrects, her voice firm. An instrument, for music. She raises the flute to her lips, ignoring the skeptical glances. She closes her eyes, momentarily transported back to the workshop's quiet triumph. She blows. The sound that emerges is different here. On the terrace, bathed in golden light and floral perfume, the flute's haunting asterisk. Woo! Asterisk sounds thin, reedy, almost pathetic, like the whine of a lost pup carried on a distant wind. It lacks the workshop's resonance, the lake's atmospheric gloom. Against the backdrop of Olympian perfection, it sounds cheap, crude, mortal. Athena plays a short sequence she'd wrestled into coherence. Asterisk, woo wee way. The notes tremble in the open air, fragile and slightly off-key, without the workshop's containing walls. Historians still argue whether the ancient Greeks preferred the complex lyre over the aulos flute, precisely because the lyre was seen as more civilized and less visceral. The reaction on the terrace is immediate. Hera's expression freezes into a mask of polite incomprehension. Aphrodite's confusion dissolves into something else entirely. Her perfect lips twitch. Then a tiny musical giggle escapes. It's like silver bells tinkling. Utterly charming. And utterly devastating. Hera, catching Aphrodite's reaction, lets out a soft, stifled snort, quickly disguised by raising her goblet again, but her shoulders tremble slightly. The cherub, sensing the shift, erupt into high-pitched, unrestrained giggles, pointing tiny fingers at Athena and the ungainly bone pipe. The sound of their laughter, bright and cruel, mingles horribly with the flute's dying asterisk. Why? Asterisk. Athena stops playing. The sudden silence is louder than any screech. Her eyes snap open. She sees it all. Hera's poorly concealed mirth. Aphrodite's beautiful face alight with open amusement. The cherubs rolling in the air with laughter. The warm glow of creation evaporates, replaced by an icy flood of humiliation, so intense it feels like a physical blow. The bone flute suddenly feels heavy, grotesque, stupid in her hands. The pride curdles into hot, acidic shame. She, Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare, patron of heroes, stands before them like a child presenting a mud pie at a state banquet. The contrast is excruciating. Her knuckles whiten around the flute. A quirky tidbit. Ancient Greek comedy often featured characters humiliated by their own inventions or artistic attempts. A trope as old as mortals trying to impress immortals. Athena is living the divine version. She lowers the flute, her face burning beneath the lingering bone dust. The terrace seems impossibly bright, the laughter echoing in her ears. The quest for validation has ended in utter, devastating ridicule. The haunting whisper of the flute is drowned out by the deafening sound of Olympian scorn. The terrace's golden light feels like acid on your skin. The lingering chime of Aphrodite's giggles and the cherub's shrieking laughter echo inside your skull, sharp as shards of broken pottery. Athena stands frozen, the bone flute a dead weight in her clenched fist. Humiliation, cold and slick, floods her veins, washing away the warm pride of creation, leaving only icy shame. Hera takes another delicate sip of nectar, her eyes dancing with cruel amusement over the rim of her goblet. Aphrodite delicately plucks a phantom rose petal from the air, her smile dazzling and utterly devoid of warmth. The message is clear, asterisk. How charmingly primitive, how utterly beneath us. You feel the urge to vanish, to sink through the cloud floor. Athena, goddess of unshakable composure, feels it too. Without a word, without even a curt nod, she turns on her heel. Her retreat isn't a strategic withdrawal, it's a rout. The bone flute feels suddenly grotesque against her thigh, a badge of foolishness. She walks fast, then faster. The perfect marble corridors blurring past the distant harp music, now a mocking taunt. You scramble to keep pace, the air thick with her silent fury and scalding embarrassment. She doesn't head for her workshop. That place of gritty triumph feels contaminated by failure now. She needs air. Real air. The memory of Lake Tritonis's cool, indifferent silence pulls her like a magnet. Away from eyes, away from laughter, away from perfection that crushes anything raw or new. You burst out onto a lesser-used balcony overlooking a churning sea of clouds, tinged pink by the setting sun. The wind here is sharp, whipping Athena's braids across her face, stinging her eyes, or is that something else? She grips the cold stone balustrade, knuckles white, breathing hard. The urge to hurl the cursed flute into the abyss is almost overwhelming, but something stops her. Not sentiment. Not yet. A burning, insatiable asterisk. Need asterisk to understand. Asterisk. Why asterisk? Why the laughter? What flaw in her creation, what grotesque failure in her own divine being had provoked such scorn? The music in the workshop, it had felt asterisk, real asterisk. Haunting, yes, but purposeful, controlled. Had she imagined it? Was she so starved for novelty that she'd mistaken cacophony for art? The doubt is corrosive. She lifts the flute, staring at it as if it holds the answer in its hollow core. Her reflection glints dully in the polished curve of a large ceremonial aegis shield mounted on the balcony wall. A relic of past victories, its bronze surface mirror smooth. A mainstream historical fact nudges in: polished bronze was the primary mirror material in ancient Greece, offering reflections that were often slightly distorted or tinted, unlike our modern glass. Athena barely registers it. Desperation overrides caution. She needs to asterisk see asterisk. To see herself making the sound, to witness the flaw. She raises the flute to her lips once more, her gaze fixed on the blurred reflection in the burnished bronze. She takes a steadying breath, drawing on the technique she'd painstakingly wrestled from chaos in the workshop. She closes her eyes for a split second, finding the breath, the lip position, and blows. The haunting asterisk, woo! Asterisk spills out clear and reedy, carrying the loneliness of the lakeshore. She opens her eyes, focusing on the reflection, and freezes. The image in the shield isn't the composed, gray-eyed goddess of wisdom, it's a gargoyle. Her cheeks are puffed out like overripe fruit stretched taut and bulbous. Her lips are pursed into a tight, exaggerated O, pulled thin and distorted around the bone mouthpiece. Her eyes, usually sharp and intelligent, are wide, straining, slightly bulging with the effort of controlled breath. Her brow is deeply furrowed tendons standing out in her neck. Every vein, every strained muscle is thrown into grotesque relief by the unforgiving bronze. It's a face contorted by effort, utterly devoid of grace, dignity, or divine serenity. It's the face of someone blowing up a particularly stubborn air mattress, not channeling the muse. Historians still argue whether the terrifying effect of Medusa's gaze was based on the distorted reflections seen in early imperfect bronze mirrors or purely mythical terror. Athena doesn't need to argue, she asterisk sees asterisk. She understands. The sound wasn't the problem. Asterisk. She asterisk was the problem. The sight is profoundly, mortifyingly ridiculous. It's the visual equivalent of the flute's first screech, a divine Instagram filter fail of epic proportions. A strangled gasp escapes her. The note cuts off abruptly. She stares horrified at her own reflection. The puffed cheeks slowly deflate, the strained lips relax, but the image is seared into her mind. The laughter of Hera and Aphrodite suddenly makes terrible, perfect sense. It wasn't just the flute's crude origins or its eerie sound. It was this asterisk. This absurd, undignified spectacle. Wisdom incarnate reduced to a red-faced, bug-eyed balloon animal. The humiliation deepens, curdling into something colder fury. Fury at the flute for demanding such grotesque contortions. Fury at Hera and Aphrodite for witnessing it. Fury most of all at herself for not seeing it sooner. For walking blindly into that ridicule, clutching her monstrous little creation. The warm satisfaction of the workshop is ashes. The bone flute is no longer an instrument, it's an engine of indignity. A quirky tidbit surfaces: ancient Greek actors playing Gorgons sometimes used distorted masks and inflated bladders in their cheeks to enhance the monstrous effect. Athena, without meaning to, had perfected the look. The wind whips around her. The pink light bleeds into deep purple twilight. The composure she's worn for millennia feels like a cracked mask. She lowers the flute not gently, but with a hand trembling with suppressed rage. The reflection in the shield slowly resolves back into her familiar stern features, but the ghost of that grotesque image lingers behind her gray eyes. The lake shore calls, not for inspiration, but for oblivion, a place to bury this mistake, this humiliation deep. She turns her back on the shield on Olympus, on the memory of laughter. The walk towards Lake Tretinus isn't a search for solace anymore. It's a funeral march for a dream pulled from dear bones and hubris. The flute hangs heavy at her side, a dead thing waiting to be discarded. The only sound now is the wind howling in sympathy, or perhaps mockery. You follow the image of the puffed-cheeked goddess echoing in your own mind. Understanding dawning cold and clear, sometimes the reflection reveals more than the mirror intends. The riverbank awaits, ready to swallow the evidence of divine folly. The wind off the cloud sea whips Athena's braids like angry serpents as she strides a storm incarnate wrapped in gray linen. Olympus's golden glow shrinks behind her, replaced by the deep indigo bruise of twilight over Lake Tritonis. The perfect marble gives way to damp earth and loose shale that shifts treacherously underfoot. You follow the crunch of pebbles, loud in the tense silence. The bone flute is a cold brand against her thigh, a constant humiliating reminder of puffed cheeks and divine laughter echoing in her mind. She doesn't walk, she marches towards the water's edge, towards oblivion for the thing that dared to make her look foolish. The lake's surface is a black mirror now reflecting the first scattered stars, and Selene's pale, indifferent face gliding higher. The air is thick with the scent of wet reeds and something deeper, older, the mineral breath of the earth itself. A mainstream historical fact surfaces: ancient Greeks often saw rivers and lakes as natural boundaries between worlds. places to discard cursed objects or make offerings to chthonic powers. Tonight, Athena isn't making an offering. She's performing an exorcism. She stops at the water's edge exactly where she'd crouched to pick up the first bone. The memory feels like a taunt. The lake's quiet lapping against the shore is the only sound, a rhythmic counterpoint to the furious drumming of your own heart. She pulls the flute from her belt. Moonlight glints coldly on its smoothed surfaces, the carefully drilled holes, the twine bindings. It looks pathetic now, insignificant, a child's macabre toy. Yet holding it, she feels the phantom strain in her cheeks, sees the grotesque reflection in the polished shield. The shame reignites white-hot. Historians still argue whether the intense Greek focus on sophrosine, moderation, self-control, stemmed from a deep fear of public shame, eidos, or was purely philosophical. Watching Athena's knuckles whiten around the bone tube, the answer feels visceral. This isn't just about an ugly instrument, it's about the violation of her divine image, the unbearable exposure of ridiculous effort. A quirky tidbit archaeologist found a cache of deliberately broken pottery and figurines dumped in an ancient Greek well, likely ritual killing of objects to dispel bad luck or negative associations. Athena's intent is similarly terminal. She draws her arm back, muscles coiled like a spring, ready to hurl the cursed thing into the deepest, darkest part of the lake. Let the silt swallow it. Let the water spirits choke on its reedy whispers. Let it be forgotten just like the deer it came from. You brace for the splash, the final punctuation mark on this divine misadventure, but her arm hesitates. Suspended mid-throw. It's not sentiment. Not exactly. It's a flicker of something else. The ghost of the sound asterisk. Not the terrace whine, but the workshop whisper. The mournful asterisk. Woo! Asterisk that had felt for a fleeting moment like true discovery. The sheer focused absorption of wrestling noise into something controllable. The pure, messy engagement had been alive. Unlike the suffocating perfection of Olympus, the contradiction is paralyzing. Fury wars with a traitorous sliver of loss, not for the flute, but for the feeling it briefly gave her. Creation, however flawed, however ridiculous, had been a spark in the eternal gloom. Her jaw clenches. The hesitation is unacceptable. Weakness. Another thing to scorn. With a guttural sound that's almost a growl, utterly un-Athena-like, the hesitation shatters. Rage wins, pure cleansing Olympian rage. She whips her arm forward with all her divine strength, putting the force of her humiliation, her frustration, her wounded pride into the throw. The bone flute doesn't arc. It spears through the night air. It's a pale blur against the dark water, silent in flight. You lose sight of it for a heartbeat before care sploosh asterisk. The impact is shockingly loud, a violent disruption of the lake's calm surface. Water erupts silvered by moonlight, then collapses back in on itself with a gurgling sigh. Ripples spread outwards, distorting the reflected stars. The flute is gone. Swallowed, the evidence is buried. A mainstream historical fact. Objects deliberately thrown into bodies of water for ritual purposes in antiquity were rarely recovered, effectively vanishing from the human and divine world. Mission accomplished. Athena stands rigid, breathing hard, staring at the spot where the ripples are already fading. The fury ebbs, leaving behind a hollow chill, a strange emptiness where the bone flute's weight and the burning humiliation had been. It's done. Erased. She should feel relief, vindication. Instead, the quiet lapping of the water feels accusatory. The vast, indifferent night presses down. She turns abruptly, not looking back, and strides away from the shore back towards the distant, hateful glow of Olympus. Her shoulders are straight, her face a mask once more. But the walk feels heavier. The victory tastes like ash. The owl, silent witness to it all, glides overhead, a shadow against deeper shadows. The lake resumes its quiet breathing, holding its secret. The bone flute rests on the silty bottom, waiting. Oblivion isn't always permanent, especially not when drunken satyrs stumble through the reeds on moonlit nights, ears pricked for the faintest whisper of something interesting. From further down the shore, carried on a sudden shift of wind, comes a faint, off-key humming and the clumsy snap of reeds. Someone else is enjoying the night air, someone far less concerned with dignity. The ripples where Athena's fury hit the water have long since vanished. Lake Tritonis is a vast, dark mirror again, reflecting Selene's cool gaze and the indifferent sprawl of stars. The silence is deep, broken only by the rhythmic sigh of water against the shore and the distant rhythmic chirp of crickets hidden in the reeds. It feels like the world has exhaled, holding its breath after the goddess's stormy departure. You stand alone on the pebbled shore, the damp night air raising goosebumps on your skin. The discarded flute lies somewhere below, resting on silt and forgotten history. A quirky tidbit whispers ancient Greek sailors believed lakes like this held sleeping water nymphs who dragged down shiny objects to adorn their underwater grottos. Maybe the flute is nestled amongst pearly shells right now, a morbid curiosity for naiads. But above the waterline, the night isn't empty. From further down the curving shoreline, carried on a shift of the cool breeze, comes a new sound. Not divine fury, not nature's rhythm. It's humming. Off-key enthusiastic and punctuated by the clumsy asterisk, snap asterisk and asterisk, crunch asterisk of someone blundering through dense reeds. You turn towards the noise. Pushing through a thick stand of swaying reeds, parting them like a clumsy god-wrestling curtain, stumbles a figure. It's Marsyas. Moonlight catches the shaggy brown fur covering his goat-like legs, the coarse hair glinting silver at the tips. His human torso is bare, muscular, but softened slightly by indulgent skin, flushed warm, even in the cool air. A wreath of slightly wilted ivy sits askew on his tangled brown hair. He's holding a large, mostly empty wineskin slung over one shoulder, and his steps have the distinct rolling gait of someone who's sampled Dionysus's bounty, asterisk, thoroughly asterisk. His eyes, bright and slightly unfocused beneath heavy brows, scan the shoreline with lazy curiosity. He's not lost precisely. More, exploring? A satyr on a post-revelry stroll, senses still humming ears pricked for anything interesting the night might offer. A mainstream historical fact nudges in satyrs like Marsyas were deeply tied to Dionysus, the god of wine ecstasy and untamed nature, embodying the wild, instinctual, and often lewd aspects of the natural world that stood in stark contrast to Olympian order. He pauses, belches softly, a sound like a contented frog, and takes another swig from the wineskin. The air carries the sweet, fermented scent of grapes clinging to him. "Quiet tonight," he mutters to no one in particular, his voice a pleasant rumble. "Even the frogs are belly-aching." He chuckles at his own joke, the sound echoing slightly too loud in the stillness. He takes a few more unsteady steps along the water's edge, kicking pebbles. His hooves make soft asterisk clop, asterisk sounds on the damp earth. He's looking for, well, anything. A dropped trinket, an interesting bug, maybe a sleepy naiad to flirt with clumsily. The usual satyr pastimes. Historians still argue whether satyrs were purely mythical symbols of untamed lust and intoxication, or inspired by real-life mountain-dwelling hermits or goat herders whose wild appearance fueled legends. Marsyas, currently trying to balance on one hoof and failing, spectacularly feels convincingly real and utterly unconcerned with scholarly debate. He stumbles again, catching himself on a thick clump of reeds near the water's edge. As he rights himself grumbling, something catches the moonlight just beneath the surface. Not a shell, not a smooth stone. Something pale, elongated, nestled amongst the dark roots and silt. It glimmers with an eerie, bone-white luminescence. Marsyas squints, leaning closer, the reeds tickling his nose. "Oh ho!" He breathes, a spark of drunken interest igniting in his eyes. "What's this shiny bit?" Curiosity, amplified by wine, overrides caution. He plunges his hand into the cool water without hesitation, mud swirling around his forearm. His fingers fumble for a moment, then close around something smooth, hard, and oddly shaped. He pulls it out with a wet asterisk schlorp asterisk. Water streams off it. Moonlight glistens on its surface. It's a jagged tube of bone-smooth pale with holes drilled along its length, bound together with some kind of tough twine. It's crude, primitive, utterly unlike the polished lyres or intricate panpipes he's seen gods or skilled mortals play. He turns it over in his large, calloused hands, water dripping onto his furry legs. "Weird-looking stick," he murmurs, poking a finger into one end. Hollow, though. He brings it closer to his face, sniffing it. It smells faintly of lake mud and something else, something old. Dry. Not unpleasant, just strange. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Ancient shepherds sometimes crafted simple whistles from hollowed-out animal bones or reeds. Practical tools for signaling, not art. Marsyas's eyes gleam. He's always been fascinated by sounds, the bleat of a goat, the rustle of leaves, the gurgle of wine pouring music to his ears. This odd bony tube looks like it might make a sound. That's interesting enough. He wipes the worst of the mud off on his thigh, leaving faint streaks. He examines the jagged end, the one Athena had labored over. It looks like a mouthpiece. Tentatively, almost reverently, he raises it to his lips. He doesn't overthink it, doesn't strategize like Athena. He just takes a deep, wine-scented breath and blows asterisk. The sound that erupts isn't Athena's workshop whisper nor her terrace whine. It's a raw, unfiltered asterisk. Blair P asterisk. Loud, brash, and slightly wet like a startled goose amplified through a hollow log. It echoes across the water, scattering the crickets into sudden silence. Marsyas jerks the flute away from his mouth, eyes wide with surprise. Then a slow, delighted grin spreads across his face. "Whoa!" he exclaims, his voice full of wonder. He stares at the bone tube with newfound respect. "You got a pair of lungs on you." He blows again harder this time. Asterisk, hoonk. Asterisk. It's even louder, more raucous. It's not music. Not yet. It's pure, unadulterated asterisk noise asterisk. But to Marsyas's wine-warmed, instinct-driven senses, it's glorious, it's powerful, it's asterisk fun asterisk. He experiments covering holes at random with thick fingers. Asterisk, squee, asterisk, asterisk, blurp, asterisk, asterisk, wee, asterisk. Each new sound makes him laugh a deep, rumbling sound of pure, uncomplicated joy. He doesn't see a grotesque reflection. He doesn't care about divine dignity. He hears potential. Raw, chaotic, exciting potential. He blows another triumphant asterisk. Parp asterisk that sends a nearby waterfowl squawking indignantly into the night. The bone flute, discarded in shame, has found its true master, a creature of pure instinct and appetite, utterly unafraid of looking ridiculous and thrilled by the sheer power of making something scream. Marsyas grins, wiping lake water from his chin. "Oh, we're gonna have some fun, you and me," he declares to the flute, giving it an affectionate tap. The mournful whisper is gone, drowned out by the satyr's raucous discovery. The path towards ambition and disaster begins with a drunken asterisk. Honk asterisk in the moonlight. The lake sighs. The owl, perched unseen high above in a cypress tree, shifts its feathers. Trouble just found a new voice. That first raucous asterisk, blarp asterisk echoing over Lake Tritonis, wasn't just a sound. It was a declaration. Marsyas stares at the bone flute, dripping lake water onto his furry shins, his wine-flushed face split by a grin wide enough to swallow the moon. "You," he declares, giving the crude instrument a companionable thump, "are asterisk, loud asterisk." Loud is good. Loud cuts through the fuzzy warmth of Dionysus's gift still buzzing in his veins. Loud is asterisk, interesting asterisk. He doesn't see the carefully smoothed holes, the strategic bindings. Athena's intellectual struggle etched in bone. He sees a noisemaker, a glorious, unpredictable, bone-shaking noisemaker. And Marsyas, satyr of untamed appetites and limited patience, asterisk loves asterisk a good noise. You follow him as he crashes back through the reeds away from the silent lake, clutching his prize. He doesn't head back to the main revels, too crowded, too much competition for attention. He finds a sun-drenched clearing a little way into the woods, fringing the lake, dappled light, filtering through oak leaves. It smells of warm earth pine resin and the lingering ghost of wild thyme. He flops down onto a mossy log, the bone flute held before him like a sacred relic plundered from a very strange temple. He blows again. Asterisk, hoonk, asterisk. A flock of startled sparrows erupts from a nearby bush. Marsyas laughs deep and rumbling. "Scaredy birds!" He tries covering a hole at random. Asterisk, squee, asterisk. It's piercing like a nail dragged across slate. He winces, then chuckles. "All right, pointy stick, less of that." He tries another hole. Asterisk, whoomp. Asterisk. A deeper, almost respectable sound. His shaggy eyebrows lift. "Oh ho, got some bass in ya." Historians still argue whether satyrs were truly capable of artistic refinement, or were forever confined to drunken cacophony and Greek myth. A debate Marsyas is blissfully unaware of as he pokes the flute experimentally. A quirky tidbit ancient Greek doctors sometimes warned that excessive wind instrument playing could lead to pneuma imbalance. basically getting lightheaded from blowing too hard. Marsyas is well on his way. What starts as drunken amusement slowly, almost imperceptibly shifts. The wine haze lifts as the afternoon sun climbs, but the fascination doesn't fade, it deepens. He blows, listens, adjusts. Blows again. Asterisk, blurp. Asterisk, too wet. He wipes the mouthpiece on his fur, tries a softer breath. Asterisk, fwee. Asterisk, better. He discovers that covering asterisk this asterisk hole while blowing asterisk, just so asterisk, produces a clear, surprisingly sweet asterisk. Twee asterisk. It's a revelation. A mainstream historical fact nudges in musical practice in ancient Greece was often rigorous, involving scales and repetitive exercises passed down through apprenticeships. Marsyas has no teacher, no scales. His method is pure instinctive trial and error, fueled by the sheer joy of discovery and the satyr's innate physical connection to rhythm and sound. He feels the vibrations travel up the bone, resonate in his hands, buzz against his lips. It's a conversation, a wrestling match, a game. Hours blur. The sun shifts, painting the clearing in long golden afternoon stripes. Sweat beads on Marsyas's brow, trickling through his coarse hair. His lips feel numb, stretched, buzzing. He ignores it. He's chasing something now, not just noise, but control. The potential he sensed in that muddy lake find is unfolding under his thick, surprisingly dexterous fingers. He practices a sequence asterisk. Twee, woo, blat. Clunky but recognizable. He tries it faster. Asterisk, twee, woo, blat, asterisk. He stumbles, snorts, tries again. Asterisk, twee, woo, blah, asterisk, smoother. He grunts, satisfied. A wood nymph drawn by the strange sounds peeks shyly from behind a broad oak trunk. Her eyes widen as Marsyas, oblivious, launches into a slightly more complex run. Asterisk. Wee-hoo-wah breep. Asterisk. It's not Apollo playing the lyre, but it's undeniably musical, rhythmic, intentional. The nymph smiles, tapping her foot almost imperceptibly on the moss. A squirrel chitters a rhythmic counterpoint from a branch overhead. The mainstream historical fact surfaces. The asterisk aulos asterisk was often used in Dionysian rituals specifically for its ability to induce ecstatic states and communal feeling through rhythm and drone. Marsyas, sweating and focused, is channeling that ancient power purely by accident. He doesn't stop. Day bleeds into dusk. Fireflies begin to spark in the gathering gloom. Marsyas's stomach rumbles, protesting the neglect, but the hunger is secondary. He's found a new appetite mastery. His thick fingers dance over the holes with increasing confidence, no longer stabbing randomly but landing with purpose. The sounds cohere. Simple melodies emerge, woven from the flute's inherent reedy voice, and Marsyas's burgeoning skill melodies that carry the earthy pulse of the forest, the gurgle of a hidden stream, the sigh of wind through leaves. They're raw, unpolished, but they have asterisk soul asterisk. A soul born of instinct, persistence, and the bone-deep satisfaction of making something complex from something simple. He plays a low, mournful asterisk. Woo. Asterisk that echoes the flute's first whisper in Athena's workshop. But now it's richer, fuller, infused with the satyr's own warmth. The listening nymph sighs softly. Historians still argue whether musical talent is innate, a divine gift, or learned through relentless practice, human effort. Watching Marsyas, his eyes closed in concentration, breath flowing steadily, fingers moving with instinctive grace learned through hours of sweaty repetition. It feels like both. The bone flute, rejected for revealing divine indignity, sings freely in the hands of earthy, unashamed joy. The clearing fills with sound, not Olympian perfection, but vibrant, untamed life. The owl watches from a high branch. The path from drunken discovery to genuine skill has been walked one raucous, reedy note at a time. The seeds of pride, however, begin to stir in the fertile soil of newfound talent. Marsyas lowers the flute, breathing heavily, a deep, satisfied smile spreading across his tired face. He's not just making noise anymore, he's making asterisk music asterisk. And it feels fantastic. That deep, satisfied smile on Marsyas's face becomes a permanent fixture. Word spreads through the whispering reeds, the chattering brooks, the rustling oak groves. The satyr who makes the bones sing. Nymphs peek from behind waterfalls, dryads lean from their trees, and fellow satyrs abandon their usual grape-stomping revelry to gather in the sun-drenched clearing by Lake Tretinus. It's no longer just a practice spot. It's an amphitheater carved by nature. You sit amongst them, moss cool beneath you, the air thick with the scent of crushed wildflowers and anticipation. Marsyas stands on his mossy log, a shaggy, sun-browned maestro. He lifts the bone flute, polished now by countless hours of handling, gleaming like ancient ivory under the dappled light. The clearing hushes. Even the cicadas seem to pause mid-chirp. A mainstream historical fact. Ancient Greek performance spaces, even natural ones, were believed to possess specific acoustics. Hollows near water were prized for amplifying sound. This clearing backed by the lake acts like a vast, leafy sound bowl. He plays. Not the simple runs of yesterday, but complex melodies that twist and soar like vines seeking sunlight. The bone flute's voice is unique, reedy and earthy, carrying the sigh of the wind through bare branches, the gurgle of hidden springs, the defiant bleat of a mountain goat. Its raw power channeled into intricate patterns. A lament for a fallen leaf, a frenzied dance for a sudden summer storm. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Archaeologists found evidence of ancient Greek music therapy, using specific instruments and rhythms. Marsyas's playing, though unintentional, seems to pulse with that same primal resonance. You feel it vibrate in your chest, loosening knots you didn't know you had. The nymphs sway, eyes closed, lost in the sound. The satyrs tap their hooves, a rhythmic thunder on the soft earth. Cheers erupt after each piece, not polite Olympian applause, but roaring, stomping, ecstatic approval that shakes the petals from nearby poppies. Encore, Marsyas. Play the storm song again. Make the mountains shake. And Marsyas drinks it in. Deeply. Greedily. The initial pure joy of discovery is now laced with something headier, more intoxicating than Dionysus's finest vintage adoration. It floods his veins, warms his fur, puffs out his chest. You see it in the way he holds himself taller on the log, the slight swagger as he lowers the flute to acknowledge the cheers, the gleam in his eyes that's less about the music now and more about the faces turned up to him rapt. Historians still argue whether satyrs possessed genuine self-awareness or were perpetually driven by base instincts and fleeting passions. Watching Marsyas preen under the adulation, the line seems perilously thin. Each roar of the crowd is a brick laid in the foundation of his pride. "Hear that!" he booms after a particularly complex passage, grinning at a group of wide-eyed dryads. "That's the sound of a satyr who doesn't need fancy golden lyres." He means it as a joke, a bit of earthy bravado, but the seed is planted. The praise becomes constant, addictive nectar. "No one plays like you, Marsyas," sighs a naiad, trailing wet fingers down his arm. "You make Pan's pipes sound like squeaky toys," guffaws a fellow satyr, clapping him on the back. "Truly, Marsyas," murmurs an older dryad, her voice like rustling leaves, "your music stirs the ancient roots. It is divine." That last word hangs in the air. Asterisk divine. Asterisk. It echoes in the hollows of Marsyas's increasingly inflated ego. Divine, like Apollo. Apollo with his perfectly tuned golden lyre. Apollo who sits pristine on Olympus, plucking melodies as polished and predictable as the marble floors. A sneer twists Marsyas's lips as he imagines it. Stiff, cold, asterisk boring. Asterisk. Where was the sweat in Apollo's music? The grit, the wild, untamed heart. He looks around at his enraptured audience. Earthy, vibrant asterisk. Alive asterisk. Asterisk. His asterisk audience. Asterisk. His asterisk music speaks to asterisk, this asterisk. To life, to passion, not to distant perfect stars. The mainstream historical fact nudges in. The ancient Greeks saw Apollo's music as embodying cosmic order and reason. Asterisk cosmos asterisk, while Dionysian and satiric music represented wild, untamed nature asterisk chaos asterisk. A fundamental tension in their worldview. Marsyas feels that tension coil within him, twisted now by pride. One evening, as fireflies weave drunken patterns in the twilight, and the clearing buzzes with the aftermath of another electrifying performance, the dam bursts. Marsyas is holding court, the bone flute resting on his knee like a scepter. Someone offers him a brimming wineskin. He takes a long, deep pull, the liquid courage mingling with the potent brew of his own burgeoning legend. The adoring faces blur slightly. The air hums. He feels invincible, unstoppable. "You know," He slurs his voice louder than necessary, cutting through the contented murmur. He gestures grandly with the wineskin sloshing liquid onto the moss. All this? He sweeps his arm to encompass the clearing the audience the very night. This asterisk-feeling asterisk. Apollo up there on his shiny mountain? He scoffs a rough, dismissive sound. Plinking away like a asterisk bird asterisk pecking seeds. Pretty noises, empty calories. He takes another swig, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. The crowd murmurs a mix of nervous laughter and sudden attentive silence. You feel the shift, the dangerous crackle in the air. The owl high in its tree swivels its head. Truth is, Marsyas declares, thrusting the bone flute into the air, I make that golden boy sound like a beginner. My little bone pipe here. He shakes it, making it rattle slightly. It's got more soul in one note than his whole fancy lyre has in eternity, but I could outplay him any day. Blindfolded, hoof-tied? He roars with laughter echoed uneasily by some satyrs, but many nymphs exchange worried glances. Historians still argue whether hubris was seen as a tragic flaw or simply dangerous stupidity in a Greek thought. Marsyas, drunk on wine and adoration, has just chugged a full draught of it. The words hang in the firefly-lit air, bold, brash, and hurtling towards the distant listening ears of the god of music himself. The clearing's joyous buzz has turned into the quiet before a thunderclap. The path from earthy joy to fatal boast is complete. Marsyas grins oblivious, basking in the stunned silence he mistakes for awe. The bone flute gleams cold and silent in his raised hand. The die is cast. That drunken boast hangs in the firefly-lit clearing like poisonous smoke. Marsyas grins, basking in the stunned silence he mistakes for awe. The nymphs exchange wide-eyed glances, fingers twisting in their hair. The satyrs shuffle their hooves, the usual raucous energy replaced by a sudden, sobering chill. You feel it too. The temperature dropping the air, thickening, the fireflies seeming to dim. The owl's silhouette vanishes from its high branch, melting into the deeper shadows. Asterisk, hubris. Asterisk. The word itself tastes like cold iron on the tongue, heavy with the weight of shattered amphorae and forgotten heroes. Historians still argue whether the Greek concept of asterisk nemesis, asterisk retribution, was an impersonal cosmic force or the direct wrath of offended gods. Tonight, the distinction feels academic. Trouble summoned by a satyr's wine-loosened tongue is already winging its way from Olympus. It arrives not with thunder or lightning, but with silence. A profound, unnatural stillness descends upon the clearing. The chirping crickets cease mid-song. The rustling leaves freeze mid-sway. The very air seems to solidify, pressing down. Then light, not the warm, dappled sunlight of the forest, but a cold, pure radiance that bleaches the vibrant greens and browns of the clearing into stark monochrome. Apollo stands at the edge of the mossy amphitheater. He wasn't there a heartbeat ago. He simply asterisk is asterisk. Bathed in his own ethereal glow, he looks like moonlight given form. Perfect, untouchable. His golden hair seems to float in an unseen breeze, his face a serene mask of sculpted marble, devoid of any human warmth. In his hands rests the kithara, its polished wood gleaming its strings taut and silent, seeming to vibrate with contained power. A quirky tidbit, Apollo's lyre strings were traditionally said to be made from the guts of sacred cows or the sinews of a tortoiseshell, materials far removed from Marsyas's scavenged bones. The contrast is brutal. Marsyas's grin falters, replaced by a sudden sobering gulp. The wineskin slips from his suddenly nerveless fingers, spilling the last dregs onto the moss like sacrificial libation gone wrong. His fellow satyrs shrink back, melting into the shadows of the trees. The nymphs bow their heads, trembling. Apollo's gaze, the color of a winter sky at dawn, sweeps over the clearing. It lands on Marsyas. It doesn't blaze with anger. It doesn't scowl. It simply asterisk observes asterisk, cold and dispassionate as a surgeon assessing a specimen. That utter lack of heat is more terrifying than any rage. Satyr Apollo's voice rings out clear and resonant, as a struck bell cutting through the oppressive silence. Your challenge echoes in the halls where harmony reigns eternal. Did you speak in jest or earnest? The question hangs deceptively simple, a trap disguised as courtesy. Marsyas puffs out his chest, trying to summon back the bravado, but it's deflated, leaking away under that arctic gaze. He clutches the bone flute like a talisman. Earnest, he blurts, his voice rougher than intended. Your music, Lord Apollo, it's fine, polished, but mine... He brandishes the flute, its pale bone stark against Apollo's golden glow. Mine has asterisk blood asterisk in it. Earth life, it speaks to the wild heart. He tries a defiant smirk. It wobbles. A mainstream historical fact. The Greeks saw Apollo as embodying asterisk, sophor sign asterisk moderation order, while figures like Marsyas represented asterisk hybris asterisk, excessive pride disorder, a clash fundamental to their understanding of the universe. Apollo embodies the former. Marsyas in this moment is pure trembling latter. Apollo doesn't react to the insult, doesn't flinch. His perfect lips curve into the faintest, most chilling semblance of a smile. It doesn't reach his eyes. Life. He repeats the word cool and precise. And noise, often indistinguishable to untrained ears. He lifts the kithara slightly. True music requires discipline, order. The harmony of the spheres, not the grunt of the beast. His gaze sharpens, pinning Marsyas like a butterfly. You claim supremacy. Very well, prove it. He pauses, letting the dread sink its claws deeper. A contest, here, now. A collective gasp ripples through the clearing, quickly stifled. Marsyas shifts his weight hooves, scraping on moss. A contest fair enough winner takes the glory. He manages a shaky grin, trying to salvage bravado. Apollo's chilling smile doesn't waver. Glory is fleeting satyr, we play for higher stakes. His voice drops, becoming silkier, more dangerous. The victor may demand anything of the vanquished. Asterisk. Anything. Asterisk. He lets the implication hang heavy and suffocating. The silence returns thicker than before. The fireflies have vanished. Only Apollo's cold radiance illuminates the terrified faces in the clearing. You feel the blood drain from your own face. Asterisk anything. Asterisk. In the hands of a god scorned, the word is a death sentence wrapped in silk. Historians still argue whether divine punishments in myth were meant as moral lessons or simply reflections of terrifying arbitrary power. Apollo's offer feels terrifyingly arbitrary. Marsyas pales beneath his fur. The bone flute feels suddenly cold, lifeless in his sweating grip. The drunken boast has crystallized into a nightmare. Apollo tilts his head, a predator observing prey, realizing the trap has sprung. Do you accept these terms, son of the wild? The question isn't an offer, it's a verdict waiting to be sealed. The clearing holds its breath. The owl unseen ruffles its feathers high above. The path to the contest is paved with icy dread. Apollo's words hang in the frozen clearing like shards of ice. Asterisk. Anything. Asterisk. The air crackles with the terrifying weight of that single word. Marsyas stares, the bone flute suddenly slick and heavy in his grasp, the wine's warmth replaced by a cold sweat prickling beneath his fur. His bravado shrivels, leaving only a raw animal awareness of the precipice he's stumbled upon. Apollo's gaze, colder than the depths of Lake Tritonis, offers no escape. The silence stretches thick enough to choke on. You feel your own breath catch the moss beneath you, suddenly feeling like quicksand. Historians still argue whether divine contests like this were tests of skill or merely elaborate traps sprung by offended gods. The predatory stillness in Apollo's perfect form suggests the latter. Do you accept? The god's voice, soft as falling snow, carries the finality of a tombstone sealing shut. Marsyas swallows the sound loud in the unnatural quiet. He glances at his fellow satyrs, their faces pale masks of fear in Apollo's cold light. The nymphs have vanished like mist. There is no help here. Only the bone flute, warm from his grip, a tangible link to the earthy confidence he'd felt moments before. He tightens his hold knuckles, whitening. To back down now, the shame would be worse than any punishment. He'd be a laughingstock not just to Olympus, but to the wild woods themselves. He meets Apollo's icy stare, drawing himself up to his full, shaggy height. I accept, he rasps, his voice rough but steady. Let the music speak. A flicker of something, amusement, contempt, crosses Apollo's flawless features. He inclines his head, a gesture both regal and dismissive. The judges. He doesn't shout, doesn't command. He simply states it, and the air asterisk shimmers asterisk. 9 figures materialize in the clearing, radiating an aura of profound creativity tinged with sheer terror. The Muses. Calliope, epic poetry, her scroll trembling. Clio, history looking pale. Euterpe, lyric poetry, wringing her hands. Thalia comedy, her usual smile frozen. Melpomene tragedy already looking mournful. Terpsichore dance shifting nervously. Erato love poetry blushing furiously. Polyhymnia sacred hymns eyes downcast. Urania astronomy gazing skyward as if seeking escape. A quirky tidbit ancient sources whisper the muses drew lots to avoid judging potentially fatal divine contests, terrified of offending any asterisk god. Tonight they look like they'd rather be anywhere else. They arrange themselves on a fallen log draped in moonlight, a spectral jury radiating palpable dread. A mainstream historical fact. The muses were considered the ultimate arbiters of artistic merit. Their judgment infallible, a burden they clearly feel tonight. Apollo gestures gracefully towards Marsyas. The challenger may begin. The words are courteous, the tone glacial. Marsyas takes a deep, shuddering breath. The familiar weight of the bone flute steadies him. He closes his eyes, shutting out Apollo's cold radiance, the terrified muses the suffocating silence. He thinks of the lake shore, the drunken discovery, the hours of sweat and joy in the clearing. He thinks of the wild heart. He brings the flute to his lips, and he plays. It's not the complex melodies he'd perfected for his forest audience. It's raw, primal, a sound that seems ripped from the earth itself. Deep guttural drones vibrate the air, resonating in your chest like a distant earthquake. High keening whistles mimic the wind screaming through mountain passes. Rhythmic staccato bursts evoke galloping hooves, the frantic beat of a rabbit's heart. He pours every ounce of his earthy passion, his satyr soul, into the bone tube. The music swirls around the clearing, untamed, powerful, visceral. You feel the damp earth beneath you, smell the pine resin. Hear the phantom crash of waves. It's the sound of life unchained, messy, passionate, and defiantly alive asterisk. The terrified muses lean forward, despite themselves some tapping afoot, almost imperceptibly, others closing their eyes, drawn into the raw current. It's magnificent in its wild imperfection. Marsyas builds to a crescendo, a final triumphant bleat that echoes the mountain goats he hails from, then lowers the flute chest, heaving sweat beading on his brow. The clearing vibrates with the echo of his song. He looks towards the muses, hope warring with fear in his eyes. Silence, thick and heavy. Apollo hasn't moved. His expression remains serene, unreadable. He steps forward, the soft crunch of moss under his sandals, impossibly loud. He lifts the golden kithara, cradling it like a lover. Adequate, he murmurs, his voice devoid of inflection, for a woodland diversion. He closes his eyes, not in concentration, but in communion. His fingers touch the strings. The sound that flows forth is otherworldly. Pure crystalline notes cascade like starlight given sound. Its harmony distilled to its divine essence. Complex melodies intertwine with effortless grace, weaving patterns as intricate and perfect as constellations. It speaks of celestial spheres turning in silent majesty, of mathematical beauty, of a universe governed by flawless eternal law. It's breathtakingly beautiful and utterly cold. It fills the clearing, washing over you like liquid moonlight, erasing the memory of Marsyas's earthy passion. It's order, perfection, the absolute antithesis of the wild beating heart. The muses sigh in unison, a sound of pure, awestruck reverence. Their fear momentarily forgotten, they are transported. This is the music of their celestial home, the sound of divine reason itself. It's technically flawless emotionally, distant, like admiring a perfectly cut diamond from behind glass. Apollo plays and plays. The melodies grow more complex, more astonishing notes spiraling into impossible heights and depths, yet always resolving with perfect, inevitable logic. It's a masterclass in divine skill. Marsyas watches his initial defiance crumbling. His shoulders slump. He knows. Even before Apollo finishes with a final shimmering chord that hangs in the air like captured moonlight, Marsyas knows. His music was life. Apollo's is eternity. Cold, perfect, untouchable. The muses sit frozen for a moment, bathed in the lingering resonance. Then, one by one, they raise their hands. Calliope, Clio, Euterpe, Thalia, Melpomene, Terpsichore, Erato, Polyhymnia, Urania. 9 hands. Unanimous. Their faces are pale-strained, but their choice is clear. Order over chaos, perfection over passion, the divine over the earthly. Historians still argue fiercely whether Apollo won fairly or subtly enchanted the muses, exploiting their inherent bias towards Olympian order. Watching their terrified, reverent faces, the distinction feels meaningless. The verdict is absolute. Apollo lowers the kithara. The cold radiance around him seems to intensify. He turns his winter sky eyes towards Marsyas. Not a flicker of triumph, only the chilling certainty of power. The term stands son of the wild, he states, his voice devoid of mercy. Vanquished pays the victor's price. Marsyas stares at the bone flute in his hands, the instrument of his pride, now the symbol of his doom. The silence returns heavier than before, broken only by the frantic pounding of your own heart and the distant mournful call of an owl. The contest is over. The reckoning begins. The unanimous verdict of the muses hangs in the clearing like a death sentence etched in starlight. Apollo's chilling radiance seems to leach the color from the moss, the trees, even the terrified faces of the remaining satyrs cowering at the edge of the woods. Marsyas stands alone in the circle of cold light, the bone flute dangling loosely from his fingers. The wild defiance, the earthy pride that fueled his boast and his playing has drained away, leaving behind a hollow shell of dread. You feel it too, a weight pressing down, a metallic taste of fear sharp on your tongue. Apollo doesn't gloat, he doesn't rage. He simply moves stepping towards Marsyas with the serene inevitability of a glacier. His golden kythara has vanished. In his hand, now materializing as if drawn from the moonlight itself, is a knife. Not a warrior's blade, but something slender, cruelly sharp, its edge catching Apollo's cold glow with a wicked glint. It looks like a sculptor's tool, or a butcher's. Historians still argue fiercely whether Apollo's punishment was a righteous upholding of divine order, or a monstrous act of vengeance wrapped in celestial justification. Watching the god approach the distinction feels like splitting hairs over the edge of a knife. Apollo stops before Marsyas. The satyr flinches, taking an involuntary step back, his hooves scrabbling on the moss. His breath comes in ragged gasps, fogging the frigid air. Apollo's winter sky eyes hold no anger, only a terrifying, detached purpose. The terms were clear, satyr. His voice is calm, almost gentle, yet it carries the finality of a tomb ceiling. The victor claims his due. Your instrument offended the harmony. Its maker must pay the price. He gestures with the slender knife not towards Marsyas's throat, but towards his shaggy pelt. Marsyas's eyes widen in dawning horrific comprehension. He clutches the bone flute to his chest like a shield, a futile gesture, a quirky tidbit. Ancient Greek butchers magaidroi. Used remarkably similar thin, sharp blades for precise skinning. A chilling parallel lost on no one witnessing this. Apollo doesn't hesitate. He reaches out not with violence, but with terrifying, graceful efficiency. His free hand grips Marsyas's thick forearm, not brutally, but with an unbreakable divine strength. Marsyas lets out a choked gasp, more shock than pain yet. He struggles instinctively, a wild animal caught, but Apollo's grip is like living marble. The god guides him almost gently, firmly towards the towering plane tree at the clearing's edge. Its bark is smooth, pale gray in the moonlight. Apollo positions Marsyas against it, pressing the satyr's back flat against the cool wood. Marsyas trembles, eyes darting wildly, panic finally overwhelming the stunned dread. "No, please, Lord Apollo." The plea is raw, stripped of all bravado, the voice of pure primal terror. Apollo ignores it. He raises the slender knife. The moonlight catches its edge again. A mainstream historical fact. The flaying of Marsyas became one of the most potent symbols of divine punishment for hubris in Greek art and literature, depicted on vases and in plays as a visceral warning against challenging the gods. Apollo brings the point of the knife to the base of Marsyas's throat, where the coarse brown fur meets the smoother skin of his human chest. Marsyas screams, a raw, guttural sound of pure animal terror that shreds the silence, echoing across the lake, sending shivers down your spine. It's the sound of the Gorgon's cry, but born of mortal dread. Apollo's expression doesn't change. He applies pressure. Not a stab, but the beginning of a cut. Precise, deliberate. The knife bites. Marsyas screams again, arching against the tree, but Apollo's grip on his arm is iron, pinning him. You see the thin line appear dark against the fur. Apollo begins to peel, slowly, methodically. He works the knife with the skill of a master craftsman, separating the pelt from the flesh beneath. It's not a brutal hacking, but a horrifically meticulous unmaking asterisk. The sound is wet, intimate, a terrible rasping whisper of blade against tissue. Marsyas's screams become continuous, agonized shrieks that rip through the night, a counterpoint to the god's silent, focused work. Historians still debate whether this specific punishment symbolized the stripping away of base earthly nature to reveal what? Or was it simply the ultimate silencing of an offensive noise? Apollo's detached precision suggests the latter. He peels downwards, revealing glistening dark red muscle beneath the fur, the stark white of connective tissue. The exposed flesh steams faintly in the cold air. The bone flute clatters to the moss forgotten. The clearing is a tableau of horror. The muses have turned away faces buried in their hands or cloaks shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The satyrs have fled their panicked, crashing through the underbrush, fading into the distance. Only you remain frozen witness to the unspeakable. Marsyas' screams weaken, dissolving into choked gurgles, then ragged, wet sobs. His eyes wide with unimaginable agony stare blankly past Apollo, past the trees into some private abyss of suffering. Apollo continues his work unmoved, peeling the pelt down Marsyas' torso past the convulsing muscles of his abdomen. The plane tree's bark is streaked with dark rivulets. The air fills with the coppery tang of blood, thick and cloying, mixing with the scent of pine and damp earth. It's a violation so profound, so intimate, it steals your breath. A quirky tidbit. Ancient medical texts describe the physiological effects of extreme trauma and blood loss with unsettling accuracy. Marsyas embodies them, now trembling pale, his cries reduced to whimpers. Apollo works relentlessly, peeling the pelt down over the shaggy goat haunches, revealing the powerful trembling muscles beneath. Finally, with a soft, wet asterisk, schlick asterisk, the entire pelt comes free in Apollo's hand. He holds it up, dripping a grotesque, hollowed-out trophy. Beneath the tree, Marsyas slumps, no longer screaming, just trembling violently, a living statue of raw, glistening meat and exposed sinew propped against the blood-streaked bark. His breath hitches shallow and desperate. Apollo regards his handiwork for a moment. The dripping pelt, the ruined satyr. His perfect face shows no satisfaction, only completion. He turns the pelt in one hand, the bloody knife in the other, and walks calmly away, dissolving into the moonlight as silently as he arrived. The clearing is left to the trembling, ruined thing against the tree, the overwhelming stench of blood, and the bone flute lying discarded in the moss, silent witness to the price of hubris. The lake's distant sigh sounds like the world breathing out in horror. The owl is silent. The only sound now is the ragged, wet gasp of Marsyas, trying to draw breath into his exposed lungs. The river awaits. The silence after Apollo's departure isn't silence at all. It's filled with the wet, ragged gasps tearing from Marsyas' ruined throat, a sound like bellows punctured and dying. You stand frozen, the coppery stench of blood thick in your nostrils, coating your tongue. The plane tree is a grim pillar against the night, its bark slicked dark, cradling the trembling horror that was once a satyr. Marsyas' eyes wide and unseeing stare past the clearing, past the stars into a void of pure agony. His exposed muscles twitch and glisten under Selene's pale, indifferent gaze. Every shallow, hitching breath seems an impossible effort, a miracle of suffering sustained only by fading instinct. The bone flute lies nearby on the trampled moss, untouched by the blood, a pale, accusing finger pointing at the sky. A quirky tidbit: ancient Greeks believed the soul resided in the breath asterisk, pneuma asterisk. Marsyas' desperate gasps sound like a soul fraying at the edges, trying desperately to hold on. You feel the earth itself recoil. The moss beneath your feet seems to draw away from the spreading pool of crimson soaking the soil. The nearby reeds by the lakeshore tremble not from wind, but as if shuddering. The very air feels charged with a profound, violated grief. This wasn't a battle lost. It was a desecration, a mainstream historical fact. The myth of Marsyas' flaying served as a potent allegory for the brutal suppression of indigenous ecstatic cults, embodied by satyrs and Dionysus, by the rising, rational Olympian order championed by Apollo. Watching the raw, trembling flesh against the tree, the allegory feels horrifically literal. Historians still argue whether the river's origin was meant as a symbol of cleansing mourning, or simply the indifferent flow of nature over tragedy. Marsyas shudders violently, a tremor running through his exposed frame. A low, bubbling moan escapes his lips, mingling with the awful wet rasp of his breathing. His gaze, clouded with agony, drifts downwards, not towards his own ruined body, but towards the dark earth beneath him, saturated with his lifeblood. It's as if some deep earthbound instinct pulls his fading awareness there. To the roots, to the source. His remaining strength seems to focus not on survival, but on this final connection. His breath hitches, catches, and then releases in one long, slow, rattling sigh. Asterisk ho! Asterisk. It's not a scream. It's a surrender. A release. As the final breath leaves him, his body slumps fully against the tree, the terrible trembling finally stilled. In that instant, the earth beneath him, asterisk, shudders asterisk. Not an earthquake, but a deep, visceral tremor like the land itself gasping. The pool of blood, thick and dark, doesn't just soak in. It asterisk liquefies asterisk, becoming unnaturally fluid, vibrant, almost luminous in the moonlight. It begins to asterisk flow asterisk. Not seep, but asterisk stream asterisk, carving a sudden swift channel through the moss and loose soil, heading downhill with purposeful energy towards the distant dark mirror of Lake Tritonis. You watch transfixed by horror and awe. The stream of blood doesn't dissipate. It gathers volume and speed, pulling moisture from the shocked earth, swelling as it rushes down the gentle slope. It hisses as it flows, a sound like steam escaping or a sigh through weeping reeds. It reaches the lake's edge but doesn't stop. It cuts a new path, a scarlet gash through the shoreline, plunging into the deeper channel where the land naturally dips. The water of the lake itself seems to part, recoiling momentarily before accepting the furious crimson influx. The stream widens, deepens, transforming from a rivulet of gore into a true watercourse within moments. Its color shifts, darkening from violent red to a deep, wine-dark crimson, then swirling with silt and lake water into a permanent murky ochre. The color of dried blood mixed with clay. The hissing subsides, replaced by the steady, mournful asterisk, gurgle asterisk, and asterisk lap asterisk of flowing water. The river Marsyas is born, not with the spring's gentle bubbling, but from a scream silenced from lifeblood spilled in divine wrath. It flows indifferent and eternal towards the distant sea. A mainstream historical fact. The real Marsyas River Sienikaii in ancient Phrygia was known for its distinctive reddish water, attributed by locals for centuries to the satyr's blood myth, explaining geography with chilling poetry. The clearing remains. The plane tree stands, its bark stained a permanent dark rust where Marsyas leaned. The scent of blood is already fading, overwhelmed by the damp mineral smell of the newborn river and the crushed moss. The bone flute lies where it fell, half hidden in the trampled greenery near the tree's roots. No one comes to retrieve it. No satyr dares, no nymph approaches. It's just there. A forgotten relic of pride, inspiration, and catastrophic consequence. The owl glides silently down from its high perch, landing on a low branch overlooking the new river. It doesn't hoot. It simply watches the dark water flow, its reflection rippling in the current. The wild, earthy joy Marsyas coaxed from the flute is gone, swallowed by the river's mournful song and the memory of his final agonized cries. The lake sighs, its surface ruffled by the new current pushing outwards. The instrument of accidental creation and unintended doom rests on the blood-fed earth, silent. Its story, it seems, is over, but the river whispers on, carrying the echo down to the sea, a liquid tombstone for hubris, and the wild heart silenced by cold, divine order. The clearing, once filled with raucous music and adoration, holds only the sound of water and the watchful silence of the owl. The path from Athena's restless boredom ends here in the gurgle of a river born from divine cruelty and a satyr's fatal pride. The flute waits, a pale bone against dark earth, forgotten but not gone. The newborn river Marsyas murmurs its dark song past the clearing, a low, constant asterisk, shush shush asterisk against the reeds. Its water, still tinged with the ochre memory of blood, swirls around the roots of the plane tree, slowly scrubbing the worst of the rust-brown stains from the bark. But the stain asterisk beneath asterisk, the tree remains. A patch of earth unnaturally dark, smelling faintly of iron and crushed sorrow, even as moss tentatively begins to creep back over its edges. And there, half sunk in that grieving soil near the roots, lies the bone flute. Moonlight catches its smooth contours, the carefully drilled holes, the fraying celestial twine binding deer femur to rib fragment. It looks small, insignificant. A forgotten toy dropped by a careless child after a tantrum. The instrument that sparked divine boredom, earthly passion, and cosmic retribution is now just debris. A quirky tidbit whispers ancient Greeks often believed objects touched by great tragedy held lingering asterisk, Miasma asterisk ritual pollution, making them dangerous to handle. Perhaps why no nymph or satyr dared retrieve it. It simply rests bleached by moonlight, waiting for the slow erasure of time and weather. You watch as days blur into seasons. Selene's chariot wheels across the sky countless times. Helios drives his blazing team on its endless loop. Rain falls, washing dust and dried leaves over the bone flute. Sun bakes it, wind scours it. The once gleaming smoothness dulls. The bone takes on the grayish hue of old driftwood. The celestial twine once strong enough to bind war plans, frays further succumbing to rot and the persistent gnawing of tiny, unseen insects. Historians still argue whether objects like this flute possessed inherent power asterisk dynamis asterisk, or were merely vessels for the stories projected onto them. Watching it whether abandoned and ignored the latter seems tragically plausible. It becomes part of the landscape, just another pale stone or gnarled root to the untrained eye. A wood mouse scurries over it using a hole as a momentary tunnel. A beetle explores its length. Life, oblivious, reclaims the space around it. The river Marsyas matures. Its initial furious rush slows and deepens. The water clears slightly, though it retains its distinctive muddy reddish hue, a constant subtle reminder etched into the geography. Locals downstream drawing water for their fields or washing clothes might pause. They feel the water's peculiar chill, hear its slightly mournful sigh over the rocks. They tell stories, whispers of a boastful satyr and a god's terrible vengeance, but the details blur. Was it a lyre he challenged? A set of pipes, the specifics of the instrument fade lost in the shadow of the punishment. The river asterisk is asterisk, the monument now, not the bone fragment slowly sinking into the loam. A mainstream historical fact. The real Marsyas River, modern Sinekai, became a place of local cult activity, with rituals possibly aimed at appeasing the restless spirit believed to dwell within its waters. Proof that geography often outlasts the specifics of myth. The flute itself, forgotten. A footnote lost in the silt. Occasionally a traveler or a particularly curious dryad might pause near the old plane tree. They might notice the unusually dark patch of earth. They might even spot the grayish bone-like protrusion nestled amongst the roots, almost grown over by moss. Odd bit of driftwood, a shepherd might mutter, prodding it with his staff before moving on. Looks like an old bone flute, a more knowledgeable naiad might whisper to her sister. They used to make them long ago. Well before. But they leave it. There's no music left in it, only the faint dry rattle of age when the wind catches it just right. The owl still perches in the tree, sometimes its golden eyes observing the river's flow. Does it remember the goddess's restless pacing, the satyr's drunken discovery, the echoing shrieks, and the final wet silence? Probably not. Owls care for the present, the rustle of a vole in the grass, the smooth arc of flight through the cool night air. History is for mortals, and perhaps regretfully for gods. The flute is just part of the scenery now. Olympus far above continues its unchanging golden monotony. Athena strategizes wars, counsels heroes, tends her olive trees. Does a faint discordant echo ever stir in her memory? A phantom strain in her cheeks? If so, she dismisses it. Like the flute, it's buried deep, a mainstream historical fact. Ancient Greeks practiced deliberate forgetting, epilesmos, of painful or disruptive events as a social and psychological tool. Gods likely perfected the art. The river flows on, whispering its name to the reeds. The bone flute sinks a fraction deeper into the earth with each passing rain. The holes fill with dirt. The last strands of twine dissolve. Its shape softens edges, blurring slowly, returning to the anonymous earth from which its components came. The wild passion Marsyas poured into it, the divine frustration Athena wrestled from it, the terrible price it exacted, all dissolve. It becomes geology, dust, a tiny calcium-rich deposit in the vast strata of time. The story of its brief, violent existence, from goddess's boredom to satyr's doom, fades like the final trembling note of a song played too long ago for anyone to truly recall the melody. Only the river remembers, and it speaks in water, not sound. The clearing holds only the rustle of leaves, the gurgle of dark water, and the immense indifferent silence of the stars overhead. The instrument of accidental creation is finally truly silent. Its echo lingers only in the name of a river and the shadow of a myth growing fainter with each passing century. The owl spreads its wings a silent shadow against the moon and glides towards the lake, leaving the bleached bone fragment to its slow reunion with the soil. The journey that began with a sigh of divine boredom ends here not with a bang but with a whisper of wind, through empty holes in a forgotten bone dissolving into the endless night. And so the echoes fade. The river's murmur softens to a distant hush, blending with the gentle sigh of wind through ancient cypress trees high above the forgotten clearing. That dark patch of earth is just earth again, cradled in moss and star shadow. The stars themselves, those cool, distant observers of gods and satyrs and bone flutes lost to time, seem to soften their gaze, turning from sharp pinpricks to a velvety scatter of light like dust motes caught in the vast, dark breath of the universe. Feel the coolness of the night air now, not as a chill, but as a soothing balm, washing over you like clear water, carrying away the last lingering tension from the tale. Let the images dissolve. The golden glare of Olympus, the frantic energy of the workshop, the vibrant chaos of the satyrs clearing the terrible cold light of judgment. Let them all soften, blur, and recede like ink dropped into deep, still water, swirling gently before vanishing. Breathe deeply, slowly, in and out, matching the rhythm of the imagined lakeshore, the quiet lap of water against smooth stones. There is no more striving here, no ambition, no divine boredom or mortal terror. Only the deep, encompassing quiet holding you as gently as the dark holds the sleeping world. The story is told. Its lessons, its sorrows, its fleeting moments of wild joy are woven back into the tapestry of myth resting now. You are safe here, wrapped in this quiet aftermath. Let the silence fill you deep and calm as the river's dark bed. Feel the weight of your own limbs sinking into rest-supported release. The night holds no more demands, only this profound whispering peace. Drift, let go, and slip into the soft, waiting embrace of sleep, where even the faintest echo of a flute is just a sigh in a dream.